I knew they were righteous. As a result of their disturbing truths, I became a lifelong student of his work as a minister, advocate, and writer. His call to radical democracy through redemptive love resonated with me on a profound level. I was barely a teenager when I began entering statewide oratorical interpretation competitions by declaiming King's most famous speeches. The thrill of channeling his voice, not to mention my frequent victories, had me believing that my connection to the man was preternatural. It was certainly life-affirming. Through the voice of the prophetic minister, I eventually found my own voice. My study of King's pivotal role in the history of this country has never stopped. Over the years, I've spoken with his most important critics, chroniclers, and defenders. I was privileged, in fact, to enjoy a rewarding friendship with Coretta Scott King, whom I interviewed many times. Her last national television interview was an appearance on my public television program, filmed in Atlanta's Ebenezer Baptist Church in 2005, on what would have been her husband's 76th birthday. At her behest, I served on the advisory board at the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change in Atlanta. Yet for all the years that I've read, discussed, and analyzed King's work, this is the first time I've sought to capture my feelings about him in a book. That's because now, after decades of study, I've come to firmly believe that in a critical way, he is misunderstood. I further believe that misunderstanding is robbing us of the essence of his character and crusade. Ironically, his martyrdom has undermined his message. As a public figure who fearlessly challenged the status quo, he has been sanitized and oversimplified. The values for which he lived and died, justice for all, service to others, and a love that liberates, no matter the cost, are largely forgotten. He is no longer a threat, but merely an idealistic dreamer to be remembered for a handful of fanciful speeches. That may be the Martin Luther King that the world wishes to remember, but it is not the Martin Luther King that I have come to better understand and love even more. The King that moves me most is the man who, during the final season of his earthly journey, faced a torrent of vicious assaults from virtually every segment of society, most painfully from his own people. The symmetry is remarkable. On April 4, 1967, he comes to the Riverside Church in New York City and delivers a dramatic and controversial speech in impassioned opposition to the Vietnam War. Exactly 12 months later to the day, on April 4, 1968, he is assassinated in Memphis, where he has traveled on behalf of garbage workers. The question I attempt to answer in this book is simple. In his last year, what kind of man has Martin Luther King Jr. become? In my view, he is a man whose true character has been misinterpreted, ignored, or forgotten. I want to remember and bring to life the essential truths about King in his final months before they are unremembered and irrecoverable. This is the King that I cherish, the King who, enduring a living hell, rises to moral greatness, the King who, in the face of unrelenting adversity, expresses the full measure of his character and courage. This is the King who, despite everything, spoke his truth, the man I consider the greatest public figure this country has ever produced. In constructing this chronicle, I've conducted a series of fresh interviews with three distinct groups: scholars, including his major biographers Taylor Branch, David Garrow, and Claiborne Carson, close friends like Harry Belafonte and Gardner C. Taylor, and associates including Andrew Young, Jesse Jackson, Dorothy Cotton, and Clarence Jones, among others. The insights gleaned from these first-hand observations have convinced me that the final leg of King's journey was far rougher than I had imagined. The pressures he faced were crushing, yet he never compromised his core commitment to nonviolence. Not for a minute did he diminish his efforts to address the burning issues of racism.